Thanks so much for being here, everyone. Behind me, I'll be showing selected illustrations from letters that I sent this last winter from Chile, where I spent the height of a Chilean growing season, December through March, working and learning at 5 small, organic, and very different farms. I went to these farms hoping to learn from each farmer about their distinct farming philosophies and practices, and to learn about these things in Spanish. Through conversations and living with the farmers, I learned about the different ideas and values that shape their farms. And through daily work with them, I learned all sorts of exciting farming practices, such as new to me methods of constructing a compost pile, of digging and preparing garden beds, and of milking and herding cows. I went to Chile with the intention of writing and sharing my experiences throughout my journey. At each farm, I wrote and sketched my thoughts and impressions and sent them through letters back home to New England to an old teacher. I chose letters because letter writing seemed the most direct way, and in some of the very rural areas I was farming in, the only way, of communicating what I was doing and learning. I wanted to be able to sit under fruit trees listening to chickens and sketch the mountains, or to write exhausted thoughts at the ends of long, hard work days. I wanted to be able to send these pieces of my musings and surroundings in tangible envelopes, traveling miles and miles and miles from Chile to New England, from my hands into someone else's. Returning here to COA this spring, I revisited the letters that I'd sent and collected them into a small illustrated book called Parcelitas, Letters from Chilean Farms, from which I'll now read a short excerpt. This comes from a letter sent on March 5th from Javier's farm in La Arena, Chile. As Don Eduardo and I drove up the steep and rocky path to the farmhouse, I caught my first sight of Javiera, a wiry woman in a long skirt chasing a rooster with a crook-ended stick between gnarled and wind-blown apple trees. Don Eduardo chuckled. Javiera is in her late 70s and, like Don Eduardo, is silver-haired and weathered by years of coastal life. That is as far as the obvious similarities between the two friends reach, however, because Javiera is just as fast-paced and fiery as Don Eduardo is peaceful and soft-spoken. We climbed out of the truck, and Javiera greeted us with a rooster, now caught, tucked beneath her arm. He had been terrorizing her favorite chicken, fresa, which is strawberry in Spanish, and would now become supper. Javiera grinned when Don Eduardo introduced me as a friend come to lend a hand. She kissed my cheek and told me any friend of Eduardo's was a friend of hers, and besides, they needed some youthful energy to help them get things done. I seriously doubted Javiera was in need of any energy. She seemed to have plenty as she gave me a whirlwind tour around the farm with the delinquent rooster underarm the whole time. Javiera's little farm is a bumpy patch of land, squeezed between craggy mountain peaks and the ocean. Its hilltops are open grassy sheep pastures, while lines of orchard trees, plums, pears, and many, many apples line garden pathways. 4 square and high-fenced gardens contain patchworks of vegetables, tomato trellises shading multicolored lettuces, fennel waving beside hardy broccoli. The farmhouse, weathered, shingled, and surrounded by flowers, rests between more apple trees. A chicken coop and sheep pen complete the picture. Javiera and I walked between rows of tall sunflowers, past bright yellow and blue beehives. I wanted to know all about this place and about Javiera, but she had a flood of questions for me first. What was I doing in Chile? What kind of farming did I do at home? Who were my favorite poets? Did I like to fish? What was my family like? Which did I like better, plum tart or apple pie? And on and on. In every row and corner of the farm, I saw purposeful beauty and the evident hard work of Javiera, responsible for shaping and caring for this place. A ladder leaned against a plum tree. Half of the chicken coop sported bright new shingles. A hoe and bucket stood at the end of a garden row where potatoes had just been harvested. I was impressed by the industriousness of this small woman, and even more impressed when, without missing a beat in our conversation, Javiera took a knife from beside the chicken coop and severed the rooster's neck. She pegged the body up to drain with the washing on the clothesline, and we collected sacks for harvesting manzanas, apples. Don Eduardo joined us, and between the three of us, we harvested about a third of the farm's manzanas. Javiera taught us an old fishing shanty that we sang as we worked. The afternoon flew by. When the air grew chilly and the sun began to sink, Javier grabbed the rooster from the line and brought it into the kitchen, where we lit a fire and started to prepare supper. As Don Eduardo cleaned the bird, I went with Javiera to the gardens to harvest vegetables for our soup and to ready the sheep and chickens for the evening. We walked the perimeter of the farm, checking fence gates and latches, and Javiera taught me another song, a slower one that she called her Buenas noches, Parcelita, Good Night Farm song. We picked broccoli, kale, carrots, parsley, and turnips. We closed the chicken coop and then reopened it so that Javiera could introduce me to the roosting red hen Fresa, who was, I agreed with Javiera, an exceptionally lovely chicken. When we came back to the kitchen, Don Eduardo had the rooster carcass boiling in a pot on the wood stove. We lit more candles, prepared the rest of our supper together with ease, and sat down together to eat. Thank you.